Hey, Husker fans, welcome back to the Husker Big Red YouTube channel. I'm Chris Peterson, and this is joining me is Danny Gillette, my co host, as always, here for the Husker Big Red podcast. And we're back for our Monday episode. We're sitting here after a Nebraska win. It was nice to sit back and enjoy some football on Saturday. But man, I have to say, what a debacle on Saturday night from Miami. I know you have some covering interest there, Danny. So how was your weekend, and how's the Miami fan base after that one?
They are not happy, and I have my Miami show later tonight, and I will be sharing my thoughts on that one. So if you like angry rants, then that may be the show for you. Unlike previous years and even last year, I do not have any angry rants about Nebraska this time around. Usually I'm angry ranting about Nebraska, but yes, it wasn't pretty on Friday. I mean, yes, there are things to clean up, but a win is a win on the road against Illinois. It was so nice to actually enjoy my weekend of football. I know that you, Chris, have said that a Nebraska loss kind of ruins your whole football viewing experience for the weekend, and I share the same sentiment. So it was nice to just relax and have that winning feeling.
It was nice to have the winning feeling and see how everything kind of worked out in the Big Ten over the weekend. Nothing too surprising. Iowa beat Purdue. It's everything pretty much the same. Wisconsin and I think Iowa has one loss. Wisconsin has zero losses. Minnesota got destroyed. So we'll see where Nebraska. I don't think it's way too early to talk about getting into the Big Ten West mix or whatever. Nebraska needs to put a few wins together for that to happen before I want to go there. But I do think it's worth saying, we're at the bye week right now. Nebraska got a really important win, I think, on Friday night for their bowl chances. So I wanted to have this discussion. We don't have a game this week, so we don't really have anything to look forward to. So at the 3-3 or at the halfway point, we're sitting here 3-3, about as 50-50 as you can get with the remaining schedule. Danny, I'll ask you, do you think that Matt Rule in his first year is going to get Nebraska to a bowl game?
Yes. And I think I know we said this game against Illinois was key, but if they can string together 2 wins in a row, including next weekend's game, meaning the 21st against Northwestern, then I think their bowl hopes are even more likely. The thing that people have to understand is that Heinrich Harburg is not a sexy air raid, offensive juggernaut of a quarterback. Neither is this offense right now. It's gritty, it's physical, it relies a lot on the run, and the wins may not always be there. The efficiency may not always be there, but as long as they score more points than the other team, I think that's something you should be happy about. And for that gritty, play style and their ability to control the clock and things like that, and their ability to, they're starting to figure out how to win football games, and I think that will help them down the road. So I do think they'll make a bowl game this year, and that would certainly be a step in the right direction.
So you're looking at the schedule. We've got after the bye week, we've got Northwestern at home.
Win.
Purdue,
You can just name down the schedule, and then I'll say win or loss. So
okay,
people
and then we got Purdue at home. So what do you think there?
loss.
And then I got to pull up the schedule. I can't remember. I know the opponents, but I think the next one's Michigan State, I believe. Yep. So the next game at Michigan State.
Win, but it's not going to be easy.
Okay. Then the next game would be at home against Maryland.
That's a loss. Maryland's a good team. I mean, they gave Ohio State a little bit of a game until Ohio State realized they were Ohio State and pulled away. So
Okay. So then at Wisconsin.
loss, but I think it's going to be close.
And then Iowa at home.
Win. I think it's going to be a win. I am not sold on Iowa yet. I think we have a very good chance of that game. So that would put them at what? Exactly 6 wins?
Yeah, that'd be 6-6
Yeah.
if it went
Yeah, that
that way.
sounds about right. I said 7-5 at the beginning of the year. 6-6 would be good. There's no way we're beating Maryland, and that's not a shot at Nebraska necessarily. Mike Loxley's doing a great job over there coaching the team, and I think honestly the 6th win to get to a bowl game at home, beating Iowa would be a great way to end the season.
That would be a great way to end the season. Maryland is going to be tough. I do think Nebraska can win that game though. 'Cause, Like Maryland should have beat Ohio State on, or at least it should have been a lot closer, and they just like absolutely imploded. Tagovailoa, threw a bunch of interceptions. So like it is going to be a very tough game, but I think it's winnable. And then Wisconsin obviously is going to be really difficult too. I think these next two games are going to be really important. Obviously, Northwestern, you got to be able to win that game, and then if you can beat Purdue, then I think you could have a chance to just obviously it would be nice to not have to beat Iowa the last week to get to a bowl game. It would be nice to have it locked up because man, if you beat Purdue, then you could have it locked up with, because I do think that Michigan State game is very winnable. And so I
Yeah.
mean there's a chance to, like, every game is winnable on the schedule. I agree with that, but there's also everyone's losable too. I mean, Minnesota lost to Northwestern. Penn State had about. It is going to be nice to have that game at home, and hopefully will be healthy. I guess we'll get some updates. That I
Yeah.
know the injury I'm watching for the most is Anthony Grant, also Marcus Washington. I think those are the two most significant ones coming out of last week. I haven't seen any updates on about those guys yet.
Honestly, the one I'm looking or monitoring the most is Luke Reimer, because you could tell that they missed him at the second level of the defense in some situations on Friday night, and he's a great run stopping linebacker. I'm just hoping he's healthy, positive, and ready to go. Positive thoughts, healthy, all of that. So, I'm looking for him because, in my opinion, he also brings, the how do I want to word this? He's like the brain behind the defense, because I noticed that when he's out on the field, things seem a little bit more organized, and that's not a shot at the defensive unit. It's just more a testament to how valuable Luke Reimer is being a veteran on this side of the football.
I agree with that. And he what's good about Reimer is he can do a lot of different things. He has done a nice job blitzing. He's good in the run defense. He's a good pass defender. So he's definitely what I would consider to be like a three down linebacker. You don't have to take him out on third down. He can play on those. So on top of that and the leadership and everything else, it was, I believe, Sean Callahan said that he expected him or thought he could be back for that Northwestern game. So even if he's not back, as long as he gets back for the Purdue game, then that should be okay. I don't want to look past Northwestern at all. I don't think
No,
Nebraska has the. I mean, every game in the every team in the Big Ten can play. I mean, there's guys that are really good players on Northwestern that just for whatever reason did they haven't played well this year, but you can definitely get beat if you don't bring your A game. We've seen that plenty of times, and heck, Northwestern beat us last year. So got to bring your A game. And I think Coach Rule knows that. But it will be interesting to see how those injuries play out. I think it was really nice to see some of the freshmen stand out, which was good. Riley Van Poppel. We talked about that in our stream on Saturday.
yeah,
If you guys missed that, go and check out the replay. We had a stream on Saturday where we took some kind of questions and did a post game chat. But
that
yeah,
goal
him
line
and
stand like that he made, that Van Poppel made, was, in my opinion, yes, I know it was the first drive, but that was a turning point in the game, because had they not gotten that stop, Illinois was just driving the ball down the field, and had they not gotten that stop, it would have been, a tough pill to swallow. I feel like the stop itself kind of energized the defensive unit as a whole and got them refocused. And Van Poppel did a nice job of filling in the gap and, you know, making sure not only did he tackle the Illinois back, but he drove him back, and that was good to see as well.
yeah, I think it's good to see too. The defense can make adjustments. And Illinois was able to put a drive together, and they had a few other drives too. It's not like they didn't move the ball. They had over 300 yards of total offense, but Nebraska won on fourth down. They definitely won in the running game, and
Mm.
it was kind of what we said. I didn't think that Luke Altmaier was good enough to beat Nebraska's defense if
No.
he didn't have a running game, and that proved to be true. And like we said on Saturday, if you outrush somebody by 130 yards, like 9 out of 10 times, you're going to win that game. So that's been a pretty positive thing. Nebraska's done that now 3 times, and they did lose 2 of those games. So I mean, they outrushed Colorado and Minnesota by a lot, and they still lost. But that was the turnover thing. So if you outrush people and you take care of the ball, which turnovers were an issue on Friday night too, but for the most part, I think they have a pretty successful formula to get to 6 wins, and maybe even beyond that. Who knows?
And, once you get to a bowl game, just those extra bowl game practices will help out the team in the long run as well. And it will also give, the players, kind of an idea of, okay, this is how postseason play works. This is what we need to do to win. This is the routine that we need to get into. And I think that's helpful as well, especially for a team that is returning, I believe, 19 players on the defensive side of football. I mean, all this experience can only help the unit grow for the future because I feel like our defense is going to be very solid, just given how well some of the freshmen are playing, now, and the fact that they have room to grow for the future.
Yeah, I definitely think the extra practices would be a big, benefit, and just some momentum. Just to end that streak would be a huge, it would be a huge feather in the cap of Matt Rule, and it would be great for the senior class. Just the fact that Nebraska, always went to a bowl game, and it's become this this long drought, and it's just become like the season goal to get to a bowl game. It would be nice to cross that off and kind of move to bigger and better things. Move up the let's make bigger goals than just reaching a bowl game. But that would be a good achievement for this team, and probably next year, just based on the schedule, because it's going to be pretty tough. We already know that, but it's just a positive thing, and it would just be great. I don't care if it's the Care Bowl or the Detroit whatever City Bowl. Just would be nice to see this team back in the postseason. But like I've been saying, this defense, I think, gives the Huskers a chance to win just about every single week if they play the way they did on Friday night.
And Tony White, you talk about the players making adjustments. I thought Tony White did a really good job of making adjustments as well. I thought he started to be more aggressive in the pass rush. At certain points in the game, and not only was he more aggressive in the pass rush, but he disguised the rush itself so that there were certain times where it would be more aggressive than others, and it threw off the rhythm and tempo of the offense during a play. So that was it's it's really good to have a defensive coordinator that can actually make adjustments during a game. And I've said this before. I think White is going on for bigger things, other than Nebraska down the road, as he should. He's a damn good football coach.
Yeah, Nebraska needed somebody that can adjust on the fly and run a little bit of a different scheme, and Tony White definitely does that. He knows how to match up with the offense. He's not just he's not just kind of be just letting himself get beat over and over again with the same stuff. So that's one thing that I've really noticed. They adjust well, and yeah, it has been an asset for this coaching staff and for this defense. So yeah, that's a big reason I have confidence in them making a bowl game. We'll see what happens with the offense. I mean, there's a lot of question marks, but this bye week I think comes at a good time. Hopefully, guys can get healthy. Hopefully, more of these freshmen can get ready to play offensively. But more than anything, I hope that Anthony Grant can play in 2 weeks, because if it I thought Emmett Johnson looked good, the fumble aside, but the depth there is just getting really concerning with when you still have 6 Big Ten games to
Yeah.
go.
Yeah, and not six easy pats on the back, because you mentioned every single game is tough, and there's going to be a lot of gritty, grinded out games, and it's going to be interesting to see. Will we see Quentin Ives? It's getting to the point where he may have to play as well, and that's certainly not a bad thing either. But I mean, the depth at running back is very concerning. And then I saw something that Ethan Piper went down with an injury on Friday night, if I'm not mistaken. So the depth on the line, I mean, the line's above average, and that's being nice when healthy. We can't afford to have any other injuries on the offensive line as well, because there's question marks there even with everybody at full strength.
There is Lavtoski. I mean, I think he could hang in there okay if need be, but yeah, you never want to have. There's not a ton of depth there, so that because if he goes down, then you're really in trouble. So yeah, that's never a good situation that you want to be in. So hopefully, they can get healthy over these bye weeks. It'll be. I'm not sure if Coach Rule's meeting with the media this week. I'm sure he will at some point, but I'm not sure if he's doing it today with just with the bye week and everything. I'm sure they'll be out doing some recruiting, and that'll be a good segue to some recruiting notes for this week. We got some interesting stuff happen over the weekend. On Sunday, Caleb Pyfrom, who was at one time kind of a Nebraska target, a 3-star offensive tackle, according to 24/7 Sports, has been committed to Illinois since this summer. Decommitted on Sunday and said he's reopening his recruitment. So it's maybe too early at this point to tell what it means from a Nebraska perspective, but I did see some chatter on Twitter that there was some good news for the Huskers, some good recruiting news. So I don't know if that, if that's related to Pyfrom or not. There was a local quarterback that also, walked on. So I don't know if you never quite know if people on Twitter know what they're talking about or what they're talking about. But it's interesting to see. It will be interesting to me to see what happens with Caleb Pyfrom here in the coming days if Nebraska, has made a push there, because even when he committed, there was talk that, they maybe saw him as a guard and he wanted to be a tackle. And so it's kind of, this whole situation is kind of interesting to me.
And it would be another in-state player to add to the class as well. So, I mean, there's certainly an emphasis on in-state recruiting, but I was just thinking, when you look at the recruiting class itself, the 2024 class, you have your linemen like Preston Tamua, which we could use right now. We have Kawan Lacey, who has been getting interest from Florida. We could use him right now. And we have wide receivers, in Devon Hall and Isaiah McMorris um guys like that. The kid from Montana who you covered, whose name I am blanking on right now.
Quinn Clark.
Quinn Clark, that's right. Yeah. So this is all to say that I think the coaching staff did a good job this summer of identifying needs for the future. And honestly, a lot of these guys, if they wanted to play at Nebraska right now, next weekend, they probably could, given the depth of some of the positions, particularly at running back.
There's a lot of guys that could have a chance to play early.
Yeah.
It's always hard to say, because some of it is a projection. But looking at the 2024 class, there is another name, another guy to know, kind of don't going down the stretch. He's a late riser, but he's one of the fastest kind of rising guys in the rankings right now. Gregory Smith III. He's a 6'3", 191-pound athlete out of Florida. He's ranked 742 overall in the composite rankings, but his offer sheet has been blown up. He's a track standout, so he really fits with what Nebraska wants to do there. Does long jump, triple jump. But since June, he's been offered by Florida State, Tulane, Iowa State, Virginia Tech, Florida, and Nebraska offered him this weekend. He took an official visit to Florida. He told Husker Online he was going to take an official visit to Nebraska, or at least a visit. I'm not sure, 100% sure if it'll be an official one, but that's another name to kind of know. So, interesting, still offering defensive backs, because they've already taken a bunch in that class, but it's I don't know if you want to read too much into it, but he's definitely a kid that is really rising up. He actually has played some quarterback in the past, so he's a really strong athlete. So I don't think obviously they're going to recruit him as a quarterback, but sometimes those guys are just really great athletes, and you can make them a safety or a corner or whatever.
You can never have too many wide receivers, and you can never have too many defensive backs, especially with the teams coming into the big, whatever it's going to be, the big 98 coming in next year. You're going to need defensive backs. You're going to need athletes. I mean, we even saw this past week with Jeremiah Charles and Bryce Turner being converted to the defensive back position. So I kind of like the emphasis being placed on defensive back, just because, not having enough can really kill an entire defense. And so I'll be interested to see, how that recruitment plays out. Moving forward, and again, from the state of Florida, that's an area that Matt Rule wants to prioritize, and that fits very well with what they're trying to do. And I fully believe it's not just a shot in the dark type of thing.
Yeah, definitely. I think, looking at the other teams, Florida obviously is probably going to be a pretty tough team to beat. Florida State right now
Yep.
has been recruiting at a high level, so we'll see how things work out with Nebraska. It's an interesting offer. I think for me, the board is still, Grant Bricks, Caleb Benning, and Jay Sean Ross. Those are three. Caleb Benning's not a blue chip player according to the rankings, but I think that he'll play like one. So, I mean, to me, that's a really important recruitment. But beyond that, we'll see that there hasn't been. There was Tuataga. I'm not sure if he's even, uncommitted at this point. And there just hasn't been any kind of rumblings. There has not been much, recruiting chatter, so I'm wondering if that will pick up this week. We'll see. I don't think they're going to add a ton to this class, but maybe Coach Rule and the staff, go down and see Grant Bricks, because that would be one to lock down. Caleb Benning. I'm sure maybe they'll try to get out and see Carter Nelson just to reaffirm that. I'm sure somebody will be down to see Keyone Lacey. Probably Garrett McGuire would be my guess.
Ha-
But
have you heard anything on Andrew Babalola, the offensive tackle? Because he was one that Nebraska was interested in as well, and I believe he took a visit. And I haven't heard anything on that front. I had heard rumors on Twitter that you know Babalola, Nebraska was in his top two, but those were just exactly that, rumors. So I didn't know if you had heard of any, when there's smoke, there's fire type of things, or
no, I just know that he visited last weekend for the Michigan game, and that he wasn't like discouraged by the fact that they got blown out by Michigan. But I don't. I think it's still pretty. I don't know that he's anywhere close to a decision
he
at
would be
this
a nice
point.
one to land too. Babalola as a tackle, I believe. So he's a very solid player, and we just got to keep chipping away and making progress. But yeah, Babalola would be a great one to land.
Yeah, definitely, and it's a good sign that that the some of those guys that were there for the Michigan game didn't get too discouraged by
Yeah,
it. So I mean, I thought that was a good thing. But yeah, so I guess that kind of wraps things up in terms of recruiting. But definitely keep an eye on Caleb Pipe from, and then where the coaches are going this week. I think you'll see some of those guys. Keyone Lacey, Grant Bricks. Some of those guys will probably get visits from the coaching staff. So finally, just a couple. There's a few news items to wrap up. Keisei, first off, Keisei Tominaga was an All Big Ten preseason selection. That was last Friday, so we didn't talk about that. But he did get selected to the All Big Ten team preseason. There was only 2 unanimous picks, so that's kind of interesting. He's definitely getting some preseason recognition.
yeah.
The Huskers, though, so today was the Columbus Post Dispatch released their preseason basketball media poll. They do that for football. In Nebraska, actually, the preseason pick is 12th in the Big Ten stitch, and I think that's a little bit low. And I don't know as much about other teams to sit there and say like who should be below Nebraska or who should be above, but I'd be surprised if Nebraska finished 12th this year in the Big Ten. That's just my take on it.
I'm in the same boat as you. I don't know enough about other teams to sit here and say that Nebraska should not be ranked 12th. But I understand, from an outside perspective, aka people that don't cover Nebraska and do these media polls, that another brand new roster and a coach in Fred Hoiberg who hasn't been able to get over 500 during a season in his Nebraska career. I mean, it's tough to give him the benefit of the doubt. Me and you both think that this team will be better, but their results just haven't been there over the past couple seasons to warrant or gift Nebraska any, even middle of the pack ranking to this point.
Yeah, I can understand it, and there are also pieces that have to come together. Transfers.
Mm,
Rink Mass, Bryce Williams. So we'll see how it all works out. I know that they. I'm not exactly sure what the point guard situation is going to be, but there's definitely enough. Like I've said, I think there's enough talent on this team to at least contend for an NCAA berth. And I think if they're not even like a bubble team, to me that would be a
yep.
disappointment. But hopefully they'll at least play some postseason basketball. I mean, you have to take those baby steps. And the thing about it is, Casey, he's a guy that is going to be playing professional basketball, and I know that. Like Bryce McGowan's, like if you look at those two guys like one on one, and for an NBA type thing, like Bryce McGowan's is obviously like a better, I think, prospect than Casey. But Casey right now, he's like a guy that's going to go pro, but you got him for 1 extra year. So I think he's a better player than this is like the best player that Fred Hoiberg has had to build around, and that Nebraska basketball's had in a long time. So if they can't make something happen with him, like when is it going to happen? I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, this could be a make or break year for Fred Hoiberg as well because there's nothing, and we'll have to see what he's done this season. But overall, that says, okay, we need to keep him. There's progress being made, and we need to make sure that he stays. And I get that, Fred Hoiberg has dealt with a lot of transfer rosters. It seems like he has a new roster almost every year, but still, I mean, Nebraska basketball already doesn't have a tremendously high ceiling, but you have to think that there's somebody that can at least, get above 500 in consecutive years and build a program.
They should. I think Fred's put a solid roster. It's just you have to go out and put wins together. So we'll see if they can do that this season. One team that hasn't struggled to win is the volleyball team. They're now 15-0, beat Michigan State and Michigan over the weekend. They've got 9 sweeps and 15 matches, ranked number 2. So make sure you guys check them out because they're definitely looking like a national title contender. One of John Cook's best, I would say, incoming freshman classes in a long time. I mean, Harper Murray's been spectacular, Bergen Riley, Andy Jackson. So make sure you check that team out too. If people, I've seen the signs like Nebraska's a volleyball school, which are kind of funny, as a joke, but this volleyball team is no joke, and they very well could win the national championship.
John Cook's been a tremendous model of consistency as a head as a head coach, and you kind of look at the parallels or perhaps the not parallels between the sports in terms of football lacking stability over the years, basketball kind of up and down. John Cook has been absolutely rock solid, dependable, and consistent, and this is what happens when you can build a program the right way and continue building it. It leads to success year in and year out. And the volleyball team's a tremendous ambassadors of the university, and it's been really awesome to see them get national recognition still from the volleyball game back in August, and it's been really fun to watch them this year, and I just can't get over how much talent they have. It's truly fun to kind of just watch and observe.
Waiting for that Wisconsin match. That'll be the big one.
Yep.
Can they get over that hurdle of Wisconsin? So that'll be coming up fairly soon. The next match is Friday night against Michigan State at home. So hopefully that'll be win number 16 for John Cook and the Huskers. But as far as this episode, we'll wrap it up there. Thanks for checking us out, you guys. Make sure you do us a favor if you haven't already and hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, get into the comments section, share it with other Husker fans that and set your alerts ready. We'll have some more content later this week. Maybe we'll do another chat on Saturday, but we'll let you guys know one way or the other. And as always, go Big Red.
Go Big Red.